Atlanta has two faces. The one the tourists see, glassy towers, southern charm, lazy jazz seeping from rooftop bars, and the one I've come to know too well, the back alleys of digital crime, the part you don't see on postcards. For 2 years, I've worked in the FBI Cybercrimes Division, tracking men and women who pretend to be someone else for profit. We call them romance fraudsters, but the term hardly captures the devastation they cause. They don't just steal money. They rewrite dreams brick by brick until all that's left is ruin. Every case I handle starts the same way. A broken voice on the phone, a victim choking back tears, whispering, "I thought he loved me." And it ends the same way, too, with my report filed neatly in an evidence folder marked "Case Closed." I thought I'd grown immune to the stories. Until the day one of those voices belonged to my sister. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when Maggie called. She never called me during work hours. Not since Dad's funeral. "Danny," she said, her voice trembling. I did something stupid. The moment she said it, my pulse quickened. I pushed my chair away from the desk and signaled to Laura, my partner, that I needed a minute. She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. "What happened?" I asked. There was a pause, a fragile silence where I could almost hear her breathing. Then, "I sent money to someone, a man I met online. He said his name was Richard." I closed my eyes. It was as if all the noise in the room, keyboards clacking, printers humming, phones ringing, suddenly faded into nothing. "Maggie." I said carefully, "How much did you send?" Her voice cracked. 130,000. My throat tightened. That was her entire retirement fund. Every shift she'd worked as a nurse. Every night she'd spent on her feet for 30 years. Gone with one click of a transfer button. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd judge me," she whispered. "But he was different, Danny. He listened to me. He said he was an engineer working overseas. I saw his photos. He looked so genuine. I didn't say anything. Not yet. My training told me to listen first, then analyze. But my heart wanted to scream. After the call, I sat in silence for a long time. Laura broke it. "You okay?" she asked. She was leaning against the doorway, coffee in hand. "My sister," I said, "she's been scammed." Laura didn't react right away. Then she sighed. "Jesus, Dan, I'm sorry." "She sent her life savings," I said quietly, "to someone named Richard Cole." She frowned. "That name's come up before. Could be one of the Lagos rings." That was when something inside me shifted. I wasn't just an investigator anymore. I was a brother with a score to settle. That night, I visited Maggie. Her apartment smelled of lavender and regret. She sat at the dining table with her laptop open, scrolling through messages that once felt romantic and now looked grotesque in the cold light of truth. "He told me he'd come to visit," she said softly. "He even sent a flight itinerary." I looked at the document. Fake, of course. The date format was European, and the airline's logo was a pixelated copy. Amateur, but effective enough for someone who wanted to believe. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. She looked up, tears pooling in her eyes. "Because I'm your big sister, Danny. I didn't want you to see me as a fool." The words gutted me, because that was the cruelest part of these crimes. It wasn't just the money. It was the shame, the self-blame that silenced victims before we could ever help them. "I'm going to fix this," I said, my voice firm. Her eyes widened. "You can't." "I can," I interrupted. "I've been chasing ghosts for years. This time, I know they're sent." Back at the bureau, I opened a confidential case file under a pseudonym, Operation Mirage. If the bureau knew I was investigating a case involving family, they'd pull me off immediately, so I didn't give them the chance. Laura knew, though. She wasn't happy, but she didn't stop me. "You're breaking at least 4 rules," she said. "Then keep count for me," I replied. We started by tracing the wire transfers. Maggie had used a local bank in Georgia to send 3 separate payments. The funds bounced through intermediary accounts in Turkey, Dubai, and finally landed in Access Bank, Lagos. Classic laundering route. From there, we pivoted to the digital trail, emails. IP addresses and login metadata from a fake profile. The IP logs led us to a shared server address in Lagos, linked over 60 fake romance profiles across multiple platforms. Laura leaned over my screen. You think he's just one guy? No, I said. He's part of a network. And then came the first twist. As I dug deeper into the chat logs, I noticed a pattern. The scammer's writing style, the sentence rhythm, the way he used British punctuation, even his spelling, matched another case I'd handled months ago, a scam involving crypto laundering and identity theft. Same linguistic footprint, same emotional hooks. It wasn't just random coincidence. It was a signature. A week later, the breakthrough came. One of our cyber forensics tools flagged a login attempt from a backup account connected to the alias Richard Cole. The geolocation pinged to Yaba, a suburb in Lagos known for its tech hubs, and, ironically, for its cybercrime dens. We monitored the signal for days until we got a secondary ping. A local IP address used to access an encrypted crypto wallet. The wallet had received multiple deposits matching Maggie's stolen funds. I stared at the data, adrenaline surging. We were close. Laura exhaled slowly. You realize if you push this further, it's personal, Dan. You sure you want that? I looked at Maggie's picture on my desk, her smile from better days, when she used to tease me for being the serious one. Yeah, I said, this one's personal. But what I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that by chasing this one man, I was stepping into something far bigger. A network that stretched beyond money, beyond romance scams, into places where love, lies, and power were woven together like silk and blood. And the man who scammed my sister? He wasn't done yet. He still needed something from her. Something that would bring all of us, him, me, and Maggie, into a collision course neither of us would forget. Sleep became a stranger to me. For the first time since joining the Bureau, I felt the raw fire that my colleagues warned me about, the kind that could blind a man in the name of justice. Every click, every encrypted chat window, every flicker of data across my monitor felt like a clue whispering, he's out there. We'd traced a crypto wallet to a cyber cafe in Yaba, Lagos, a dimly lit cluster of computers used by half a dozen scammers under the banner of a fake digital marketing startup. But behind that smokescreen, hundreds of thousands of dollars from American victims were flowing in and out, funneled through digital currencies, shell companies, and offshore accounts. Our team had a name now, Tundakambi. The supposed Richard Cole, who'd stolen my sister's retirement, was a 27-year-old Nigerian national. Multiple aliases, 0 arrests, and a reputation in the cybercrime underworld as a ghost artist, a man who could assume any identity and make anyone fall in love with it. But there was something else, something that chilled me. His network wasn't just scamming lonely women. They were laundering funds for an organization flagged in a counterterrorism operation 6 months earlier. This was bigger than a broken heart. This was organized crime wearing the mask of romance. Laura leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. If we move now, we'll lose the trail. I know, I said, eyes fixed on the code streaming down my screen. We can't make arrests in Lagos without coordination, she pressed. The Bureau has to go through Interpol, or we can contact EFCC. I cut her off. That'll take weeks. He'll be gone by then. She gave me a look, half frustration, half worry. Dan, you're crossing a line. This isn't about your sister anymore. You need to. It's exactly about my sister. I snapped. She's one of dozens, maybe hundreds. I'm not waiting for another report while he vanishes into thin air. She sighed. Then we play it smart, under the radar. That's why we went off the grid. We built a fake identity. A digital ghost named Eric Stanford, a mid-level crypto investor with a taste for high-risk deals. Through deep web channels, I inserted myself into a known scammer's chat group disguised as a cryptocurrency forum. It didn't take long before someone noticed. User handle, BL371. She was cautious, but curious. Her messages came in short bursts, always polite, never revealing too much. Then one night, she sent, "You're not like the others. You speak different." I smiled faintly. Different how? "You sound like you've seen the other side of the game." That was my opening. Over the next few days, we built rapport. I learned she was a 23-year-old woman named Blessing, working for Tun's team. She didn't scam directly. She helped with logistics, cleaning data trails, and rerouting money through online wallets. You don't sound proud of it. I messaged one night. There was a long pause before her reply came. Pride doesn't feed hunger. That hit me, because suddenly, this wasn't just about villains and victims anymore. It was about survival. I played my part carefully. I hinted that I had contacts who could make Tun's laundering more efficient. I spoke in half-truths, technical enough to sound legitimate, but vague enough to conceal who I really was. Then one night, she wrote, "He's planning something new, a big score." Who? I asked, pretending not to know his name. My boss, the one you probably heard about, Richard Cole. He's targeting another woman. Same story. Engineer overseas, widow, lonely. But this time it's not about love. It's about access. Access? I typed, bank credentials. Her son works in finance. He thinks he's in love. But he's really a key. I froze. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. It was financial infiltration. A setup to breach a U.S. bank through a personal relationship. Can you give me details? I asked. Maybe. But if he finds out, I'm dead. I stared at the blinking cursor for what felt like an eternity. Then I typed, "Help me stop him. I can protect you." The next morning, Laura found me hunched over my desk. "You look like you've been hit by a train," she said. "Blessings talking." I muttered, "Tun's planning a heist disguised as a romance." Her eyes widened. "You're kidding." "No, and he's not acting alone. There's an American partner helping him wash the funds. Someone stateside." She cursed under her breath. "You think he's using local couriers again?" "Worse," I said. "Someone embedded in logistics. Maybe a customs broker." We started cross-referencing every previous transaction Maggie scam had gone through. One company appeared multiple times. Metrolink Cargo, an Atlanta-based shipping firm handling overseas parcels. On paper, they move electronics. But behind the scenes, encrypted communications suggested they also move money. Crypto hardware wallets, counterfeit devices, and occasionally people. We had a name, Russell Gray, the company's regional manager. It was a quiet Friday when I decided to test my theory. I called Gray's office, pretending to be a client. "Metrolink Cargo," Russell speaking. His voice was smooth, practiced, and polite, the kind of voice that sold trust for a living. "Yes, Mr. Gray. I'm looking to ship digital equipment to Lagos," I said. "Sensitive items. No customs interference." There was a pause. Then his tone shifted ever so slightly. "Ah, you're one of those clients. Who referred you?" "Bingo." I gave him a fake referral, one pulled from Tun's contact list. There was silence, then a low chuckle. "All right, Mr. Stanford," he said. "I think we could do business." When I hung up, my hands trembled. We had our bridge between Lagos and Atlanta. Over the next week, we monitored Metrolink shipments. Most were clean, but one stood out, a package scheduled for delivery to a P.O. box registered under a false name. Inside, a crypto hardware wallet with over $200,000 in stolen funds. Destination? Lagos. Laura whistled when she saw the manifest. "That's enough to get a warrant." "Not yet," I said. "I want the head of the snake." That night, Blessing messaged me again. He's suspicious. Someone told him there's an FBI trace in the network. "You need to get out." I wrote quickly. "I can't. Not yet." He said he's moving the money through the American. "Tonight." "Where?" I asked. No reply. Then my screen flickered with a notification. "Incoming file. Coordinates.txt." I opened it. GPS coordinates. They pointed to an abandoned rail yard just outside Atlanta. I stood up so fast my chair toppled. "Laura, grab your gear. He's here." We arrived 20 minutes later. Rain pelting the windshield, lights off. The yard was empty except for rusted freight containers and the distant hum of traffic. We split up. Laura circled east. I moved toward the coordinates. Then I saw him. Not Tun, but Russell Gray, standing beneath a floodlight, briefcase in hand. He was speaking to a man through a video call on his phone. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I recognized the voice from Maggie's recordings. Ton. Suddenly, Gray turned, his eyes locking on mine. He smiled. Then the floodlight died. A second later, my earpiece crackled. Dan, get out! It's a trap. The explosion hit before I could move. A shipping container erupted in fire, throwing me backward into the mud. My ears rang as I scrambled for cover. Through the haze, I saw Gray sprinting toward a van, the briefcase clutched tight. I fired a warning shot. The van screeched, swerved, and vanished into the night. When the smoke cleared, I heard Laura shouting my name. I was alive. Barely. But something told me that was only the beginning. The operation had a name, Silver Line. It was inspired by the thread of hope connecting victims across continents, from lonely hearts in American suburbs to quiet rooms in Lagos, Accra, and Abidjan. For months, we had tracked countless trails, phone calls, fake bank alerts, false passports, but this one was personal. As I sat in the dimly lit operations room, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, I thought of Maggie, my sister, and the shattered look on her face when she learned the truth. The scammer who called himself David Cooper had promised her love and companionship. Instead, he stole everything. But he made one mistake. He got greedy. The trap. The message came from David 3 months after Maggie's heartbreak. He wanted more. He told her he'd been detained in Dubai for a failed business deal. The same story he used on dozens of women. Maggie, under my guidance, played along. This time, we crafted the perfect bait. She pretended to have access to her sister's law firm that could help transfer the money. The law firm was a small, tightly controlled unit within the FBI's cyber division. We'd rerouted a traceable payment link to a shell bank account monitored by our partners at Interpol's Financial Crime Division. Every keystroke, every digital move the scammer made, was logged. The coordinates led us to Lagos, Nigeria. Specifically, a small apartment in Surulere on the mainland, a bustling district filled with young men hustling online, many legitimate, many not. The unexpected twist. While preparing for the arrest, something strange emerged. The name attached to the IP wasn't David Cooper. It wasn't even close. It was Tunde Kambi, a 24-year-old computer engineering student at the University of Lagos. He wasn't alone. Behind him was a network, a syndicate of 8 men operating under the guise of a digital marketing startup. Their office, painted bright orange, bore the logo Skyline Media Solutions. Inside, however, were over 40 burner phones, fake passports, and a wall of digital ledgers recording transactions totaling over $2 million from U.S., Canadian, and European victims. But something else made my blood run cold. In the evidence folder, among the hundreds of photos and chat screenshots, there was one labeled Maggie_folder. Inside it were her pictures, messages, even a photo of our late parents she'd shared during one of their chats. It was personal now, deeper than ever, a twist of humanity. Before the arrest, I wanted to see Ton with my own eyes. I arranged, through local law enforcement, to meet him undercover, posing as a potential investor interested in Skyline Media. He was tall, lean, and surprisingly soft-spoken. His English carried that musical Nigerian rhythm, precise but disarming. During our short conversation, I saw no trace of guilt, just confidence, until I asked him one question. Do you ever think about the people you scam? He paused. Sir, he said, looking straight into my eyes, we just do what your people's systems make impossible for us to avoid. No jobs, no help, so we create our own economy. It was a line I'd heard before, but this time it hit differently. There was no excuse for his crime. Yet, for the first time, I saw a fractured system that created both victims and perpetrators. Still, justice had to prevail. The raid. 2 days later, at dawn, the raid began. Lagos police and Interpol agents stormed the compound. Shouts filled the humid morning air. The sound of boots, breaking glass, and frantic typing from laptops as young men tried to delete their evidence. Ton was caught mid-call, his headset still on, saying the words, "Baby, I promise, I'll come for you soon." When he saw me step into the room, his confident smile faltered. Recognition flashed across his face. "It's you," he whispered. "Yes," I said. "The man whose sister you broke." Justice in motion. The case was transferred to the U.S. Department of Justice, with cooperation from the Nigerian EFCC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. For months, we gathered testimonies, digital trails, and financial documents. Maggie was among the witnesses, though she chose to appear virtually. I could see her trembling slightly as she faced the camera, her voice steady but fragile. The defense tried to paint Tund as a misguided youth, but the weight of evidence was too heavy. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts of international wire fraud and identity theft, Maggie wept silently. I didn't smile. Justice never feels like triumph. It feels like relief. The redemption thread. Months after conviction, I received a letter, hand-signed by Tund from prison. He wrote, "Sir, you asked if I ever think about those I scam. Now I do, every day. I think about your sister. I think about mine, who died without access to school because of the kind of greed I chose. I am sorry, not for being caught, but for being the reason someone lost faith in love." Maggie read it and cried, not because she forgave him, but because, in some way, she finally let go. She started volunteering for a victim support group called From Shame to Justice, helping women recover emotionally and financially after scams. The moral: the story doesn't end with handcuffs or money recovered. It ends with awareness. Romance scams aren't just crimes of deceit. They're crimes of trust. Every message, every emoji, every "good morning, my love" carries weight for someone lonely, grieving, or simply hopeful. As an FBI agent, I've seen data move faster than compassion. But I've also learned that justice isn't just about punishing the guilty. It's about restoring the humanity that crime tries to steal. Maggie once said to me, "They took my money, but they won't take my peace again." And in that moment, I knew she, and every victim who dares to speak out, was the true definition of justice. The months following Tund's conviction were quieter, but they were not peaceful. Justice, I had come to realize, doesn't bring closure overnight. It unfolds like dawn breaking after a long night. You see the light, but the shadows still linger. For Maggie, the scars of betrayal ran deeper than money. She often said, it wasn't the dollars he took, but the dreams. I knew what she meant. The scam had robbed her of her trust, not just in love, but in her ability to make sound choices. Still, she fought back. Maggie's new purpose. In the weeks after sentencing, Maggie joined a nonprofit called From Shame to Justice, an advocacy group for victims of online fraud. The organization helps survivors move beyond the guilt that scammers thrive on, turning their pain into purpose. At first, she was just attending meetings quietly. Then one afternoon, I got a text from her that made me stop mid-report. I told my story today, out loud. She later told me how it felt to stand before a room full of women and men who had all been conned by people pretending to love them. There were tears, nods, even laughter at moments when the absurdity of it all became too heavy to bear. But what she described most vividly was connection, the feeling that she wasn't alone anymore. Maggie began volunteering regularly. She created a digital heart safety guide, teaching seniors how to recognize red flags, requests for money early in online relationships, inconsistencies in grammar, time zones, and photographs, emotional manipulation disguised as affection. The guide spread quickly online. Within months, it became one of the most downloaded resources on the organization's website. Her story had transformed her. She had gone from victim to voice. The ghost account. Just when things were settling, something strange happened. Our cyber division intercepted suspicious transactions linked to the same digital wallet used by Tund's group. But this time, the funds were traced in New York City. It looked like a local copycat network had picked up their old playbook. We called it Operation Broken Mirror, because this time the scam was reflecting itself in America. The ringleader was a man named Calvin Myers, a smooth-talking U.S. national who had built a fake recovery firm. He targeted romance scam victims, promising to help them get their money back for a fee. It was the cruelest twist imaginable. Scammers preying on people already scammed. Maggie received one of Calvin's emails. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. This time, she didn't panic. She called me immediately. "They're doing it again," she said. "Let's stop them." And we did. We set a digital snare, mimicking a victim desperate to recover lost funds. Within 2 weeks, we traced Calvin's operation to a downtown Brooklyn office. When we raided it, we found dozens of names, including those of Maggie's support group members. The bust made national headlines. FBI nabs recovery scam targeting romance fraud victims. Maggie watched the news report in silence. When the reporter mentioned her by name as one of the whistleblowers who helped crack the case, she whispered, "I never thought I'd see this day." A web of shadows. The more cases I handled, the clearer it became. Romance scams weren't just isolated crimes. They were part of a global ecosystem of deception, from small-time con artists in cyber cafes to polished fraudsters posing as investment consultants. One afternoon, my supervisor called me into his office. "Agent Carter," he said, "we're forming a joint task force. Cyber fraud, emotional manipulation, identity theft. It's all merging. You got the field experience and the personal drive. We want you to lead the emotional intelligence wing." The assignment was unprecedented. We weren't just going after criminals. We were studying how they think, how they lure, and how to emotionally disarm them before they strike. I accepted without hesitation. For the first time since Maggie's ordeal, I felt like I was doing more than reacting. I was preventing. Maggie's full circle moment. 2 years later, Maggie stood on a stage in Washington, D.C., at a conference for cybercrime awareness. I sat in the audience, watching as she told her story to an auditorium filled with policymakers, investigators, and victims. "Fraud isn't just about stolen money," she said. "It's about stolen trust. But trust will be rebuilt when we speak up, when we share, when we support each other." The audience gave her a standing ovation. I clapped the hardest. After the speech, she looked at me and smiled. "You know," she said softly, "maybe the scam didn't destroy me. Maybe it just redirected me." I nodded. Justice doesn't always look like handcuffs. I told her, sometimes it looks like healing. The moral, from pain to purpose. Every story of deception carries 2 victims, the one who loses their money and the one who loses their belief in good people. The path to recovery is different for each, but it always begins with awareness. Maggie's journey reminded me and countless others that justice is a moment. It's a movement. It's the woman who warns another before she falls for a fake lover. It's the agent who digs one step deeper instead of closing a case. It's the community that replaces silence with stories. In the end, Maggie's story wasn't just about a scam. It was about reclaiming power. She lost her savings, yes, but she found her voice. And that voice, amplified through others, became something the scammers could never fake. Truth, the letter that changed everything. A few months later, another letter arrived. It was from a Lagos prison. It was from Tund again. "Sir, I saw the woman speak on TV. The one you said was your sister. I didn't recognize her at first. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like someone who had found her freedom. Thank you for giving me mine, even behind these walls." Maggie smiled when I showed it to her. She didn't say much, just whispered, "Maybe redemption isn't just for the good ones." She was right. Final lesson. Romance scams thrive on loneliness, shame, and silence. But once victims begin to speak, once they turn their pain into awareness, the scammers lose their greatest weapon: secrecy. From shame to justice, from heartbreak to healing, Maggie's journey is proof that even in the darkest deceit, the human spirit can rise again.